My girlfriend of nearly 3 years dumped me at her father's 60th birthday party in front of everyone. On purpose. I am Evan, 29. Work as a copywriter at a creative agency here in Chicago. My now ex-girlfriend Marissa is 27 and does event planning for luxury brands. She also has this influencer thing going on the side, always chasing the perfect aesthetic for her Instagram. We met through mutual friends at one of those networking happy hours that nobody actually wants to attend. And honestly, those first few months were great. She was fun and spontaneous in ways I am not naturally wired for, and I think I grounded her when she needed it. Here is the thing though. About 8 months ago, Marissa reconnected with her ex Zach. He is this freelance travel photographer, the kind of guy who posts sunset shots from Bali with captions about living authentically. Marissa said they were just collaborating on mood boards for her events, that his eye for composition would elevate her brand. I didn't love it, but I trusted her. I helped her build that brand from scratch, designed her website, sat with her through contract negotiations. When clients tried to lowball her, I believed in what we were building together. Then the comparisons started. Little comments at first. Zach would have made this dinner reservation more spontaneous. Zach knew how to really live instead of just planning everything to death. Every time I brought up how uncomfortable this was making me, she had flipped it back. I was being insecure. I was too sensitive. I was trying to control her creative process. So I backed off because the last thing I wanted was to be that boyfriend. 2 months ago, I got offered a position at a top agency in New York. Better title, significant raise, the kind of opportunity you don't turn down. But Marissa begged me not to take it. She cried and said she couldn't build her life if I abandoned her, that everything we had worked toward would fall apart, so I stayed. I literally emailed them the next day and declined. Told them I had personal commitments in Chicago I couldn't walk away from. Fast forward to 3 weeks ago. Her dad's birthday party, this beautiful rooftop venue downtown that Marissa had planned herself. All her family, her clients, co-workers, basically everyone in her professional and personal orbit. About an hour in, she pulls me aside near the bar area where at least a dozen people are standing around. She is smiling. But it is this cold smile I have never seen before. She says, and I quote, because these words are burned into my brain, Zach and I are reconnecting. You are sweet, Evan, but you are not passion. You are a placeholder. I will forget you in a week. She said it loud enough that her sister turned around. Her father, who was mid-conversation with a business partner, just froze. A few of her coworkers exchanged these horrified glances. I could see her trying to gauge my reaction, like she wanted me to make a scene, like this was some kind of dramatic movie moment she was directing. I didn't give her that satisfaction. I just looked at her and said, noted. Then I walked out of that rooftop party, got in my car, and drove home to the apartment we shared. I want to say I fell apart, but honestly I just went numb. Spent that whole night packing my essentials while she was presumably still at the party celebrating her liberation or whatever. By Sunday afternoon I had moved everything into a storage unit and crashed at a friend's place. By Monday, I had emailed that New York agency asking if the position was still open. By some miracle it was. They had been having trouble finding the right fit. I blocked Marissa on everything, removed myself from our shared financial planning apps and accounts. 10 days after that rooftop disaster, I was on a plane to New York with my entire life in 4 suitcases. People keep asking me if I am okay, and honestly, I don't know yet. Part of me feels like I dodged something, but another part keeps replaying every moment wondering where I missed the signs. Reddit. Was I really just a placeholder? Did I waste 3 years of my life? Update 1. It has been 6 weeks since I posted, and the messages I got here actually helped more than I expected. A lot of you said to focus on myself and let karma handle the rest, so that is what I have been trying to do. I am not going to lie though. Some pretty wild stuff has happened that I need to share because it is honestly validating in ways I didn't expect. New York has been good for me. The agency job is intense, but in the best way possible. I am working on campaigns that are actually getting attention. Real buzz in the industry. My creative director pulled me aside last week and said I am doing work that feels urgent and alive, which is apparently the highest compliment he gives. Outside of work, I joined this creative studio collective in Brooklyn where designers and writers collaborate on experimental projects. It is helping me remember why I got into this field in the first place. I also started therapy, which I probably should have done years ago. My therapist has this way of asking questions that make me realize how much I was accommodating and excusing. Like when Marissa would criticize my lack of spontaneity, but then expect me to handle all the practical planning and financial stability. Or how she would dismiss my feelings but expect complete emotional support for every minor setback in her business. I am starting to see the whole relationship differently now, and honestly, it is a relief mixed with anger I didn't know I was carrying. But here is where it gets interesting. About 3 weeks ago, I started hearing things through the mutual friend network. Apparently Marissa's event planning business is struggling. That twist I mentioned about Zach's creative direction. Turns out his ideas sound amazing on a mood board but are logistical nightmares in practice. One client ended up 40% over budget because Zach insisted on this elaborate floral installation that required structural engineering assessments. Another event ran 3 hours behind schedule because he wanted golden hour lighting for photos and didn't account for actual event flow. She has lost at least 3 major clients that I know of. One of them apparently told her that her previous work had been much more professional, which I am trying not to feel smug about, but come on. Then the screenshots started circulating. Someone leaked messages from a group chat where Marissa had been venting about our relationship months before the breakup. One message said, and I am paraphrasing, because I only saw it once before I asked people to stop sending me this stuff. Evan will never leave. He is too stable. He needs me. Another one was her laughing about how predictable I was. How she could always count on me to handle the boring parts of life while she focused on her creative vision. Her clients saw those screenshots. Her professional network saw them. Suddenly, she wasn't just the creative event planner who made bold choices. She was someone who viewed her partner as a tool and mocked him behind his back. The comments I heard secondhand ranged from disappointed to disgusted. She started trying to contact me about 4 weeks in. First through email, which I have filtered to a folder I never check. Then through alternate Instagram accounts that I blocked as fast as they appeared. She got mutual friends to reach out, asking if I would be willing to talk, telling me she was really struggling and needed closure. I didn't respond to any of it, but here is the moment that actually broke through my defenses a little. Her father emailed me. Marissa's dad, who I actually really respected, sent me this message that basically said he was sorry his daughter had humiliated me in front of everyone, that I had been the best thing that happened to her, and that he hoped I was doing well in New York. He didn't say it directly, but he implied pretty heavily that Marissa wasn't welcome at family gatherings right now, that her mother was mortified by how she had handled things. That email hit different because her dad is this old school guy who doesn't get involved in drama. For him to reach out meant she would really crossed a line with her own family. I am not celebrating her struggles. I am really not. But I would be lying if I said it doesn't feel like the universe is confirming that leaving was the right choice. My therapist says I need to fully detach and stop tracking what is happening in her life. And she is probably right. But man, knowing that the person who said I was forgettable is now desperately trying to get my attention. That does something for the ego. I am not going to pretend it doesn't. I am in a better place. Actually better, not just saying it. And I am going to keep building from here. Update 2: Marissa's situation has completely collapsed. I am getting this information against my will at this point because people keep reaching out. But here is the sequence of events. Remember Zach, the spontaneous photographer X she left me for? Turns out he was running the same playbook with multiple women. While he was doing these creative collaborations with Marissa, he had an actual girlfriend in Seattle and another woman in Portland. He was calling his creative partner. Both of them found out about each other and about Marissa at basically the same time through overlapping social media posts. They confronted him publicly, tagged him in posts asking for explanations, and he just ghosted everyone. Deleted his Instagram, shut down his website, completely vanished from the internet. Marissa was left holding the aftermath. The women contacted her directly, comparing notes, and apparently the timelines were damning. He had been juggling all 3 of them with the exact same lines about creative synergy and authentic connection. She wasn't special. She was just another rotation in his pattern. After that blew up, she lost her remaining major clients, including a brand sponsorship she had been building for months. Her friend group, which had apparently been gossiping about how badly she had treated me, basically iced her out. Someone told me she had to move out of her apartment because between the lost income and rising rent, she couldn't afford it anymore. She is apparently staying with her younger brother now, which cannot be comfortable given how her family feels about everything. Then the stalking behavior started. About 6 weeks ago, she showed up at my old office in Chicago, crying and asking the receptionist if anyone knew how to reach me. They told her I had relocated and wasn't coming back. She went to my old apartment building and left notes with the doorman, who thankfully just threw them away. Then she somehow found my mom's Facebook and sent her this long message about how she deserved closure and needed to explain herself. My mom called me laughing about it, which was actually a relief. She said Marissa's message was so dramatic and self-pitying that it read like a performance rather than genuine remorse. Mom told me to keep my boundaries firm and not to let anyone guilt me into responding. I held the line, didn't respond to anything, stayed completely silent. Then 2 weeks ago, her younger brother reached out. I almost didn't open the message because I figured it was another plea on her behalf, but something made me click. He had found Marissa's project journal. You know, those expensive leather planners influencers are always showing off. Apparently she kept one for business planning and personal strategy, and she had left it at his place during her move. He was going through it to pack her stuff and stumbled across pages he thought I should see. There were pros and cons lists comparing me to Zach. One column had things like stability, financial security, useful skills, dependable. The other had passion, spontaneity, aesthetic value, social currency. Under my column, she had written notes like stay with Evan until booking season stabilizes, then reassess options. There were screenshots she had saved of the New York salary offer email I had shown her, with calculations in the margins about what that money could do for her business. There was a budget worksheet titled something like, "How long can Evan support me if I pivot to full-time influencer?" She would literally calculated how much she could extract from my financial stability while minimizing her own expenses. Her brother sent me photos of these pages with a message that basically said he was disgusted, that he had always liked me and felt I deserved to know I had been deliberately used, that their parents didn't know about the journal but he was considering showing them. I stared at those photos for probably an hour. Part of me already knew, if I am being honest. The way she had reacted when I considered New York the first time. The timing of her affection always correlating with her business stress. How quickly she had pivoted away once she thought Zach could offer something I couldn't. But seeing it written out in her own handwriting, seeing her quantify my value as a resource rather than a person, that crystallized everything. I wasn't her partner. I was never her partner. I was her safety net, her financial cushion, her emotional insurance policy. And the second she thought she had something more exciting lined up, she didn't even have the decency to end things privately. She had to humiliate me publicly to prove to herself and everyone watching that she was making an upgrade. Except it wasn't an upgrade. It was a lateral move to another person who saw her exactly the way she had seen me, as a resource to extract value from until something better came along. I thanked her brother for showing me, told him I appreciated his honesty and that he didn't need to show their parents unless he felt it was necessary. Then I closed that chapter completely. I don't need to confront her. I don't need closure. I have all the information I need to know that leaving was the only option that preserved my self-respect. I am doing really well now. Final update: last weekend, I went back to Chicago for a wedding. One of my former coworkers was getting married at this venue in West Loop, and I would RSVP months ago before everything exploded. I honestly considered backing out because I didn't want to risk running into Marissa or anyone from her circle, but my date convinced me to go. Yeah, I brought a date. Her name is Lila. She is 32, and she is a documentary filmmaker I met through the Creative Collective in Brooklyn. We have been seeing each other for about 6 weeks, taking it slow and actually communicating like adults. She knew the whole backstory and thought it would be empowering for me to show up living well rather than hiding. So we flew to Chicago Friday night, and the wedding was Saturday evening. Beautiful ceremony, great reception. Everyone from the old office was there catching up. I was genuinely having a good time, introducing Lila around, feeling completely comfortable in a way I hadn't expected. Then I saw Marissa across the room. She was there as someone's plus one, someone I barely knew from the extended network. She looked different, thinner, tired. Her hair wasn't styled with the usual perfection she insisted on. She was wearing a dress I recognized from 2 years ago, which for someone who prided herself on always having the latest aesthetic was telling. She spotted me at the same moment. I watched her face go through this whole journey of shock, panic, hurt, and then something like desperate determination. Before I could even process what was happening, She was walking over. Lila squeezed my hand once and then gracefully stepped away toward the bar, giving me space, but staying within eye line. I appreciated that instinct, that trust. Marissa stopped about 2 feet away from me. Up close, I could see she had been crying recently. Her makeup was covering it, but not well, she said. "Evan, please, I need to talk to you. I ruined everything. Zach screwed me over completely. My career is falling apart. My family barely speaks to me. I see now that you were the one who actually mattered. You were the real thing, and I threw it away for nothing." She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. People around us were starting to notice. A few former co-workers were definitely watching. I could see someone whispering to their date, probably filling them in on the history. I took a breath and said, very calmly, "You told me at your dad's birthday that you would forget me in a week. Turns out that is exactly how long it took me to forget the person you pretended to be." Her face crumpled. "That is not fair. I was confused and scared, and Zach was manipulating me into thinking I needed something you couldn't give me. I made a mistake. Don't you believe in second chances? I believe you showed me exactly who you are when you humiliated me in front of everyone you knew. I believe you used me for 3 years while keeping an exit strategy in your back pocket, and I believe you are only here now because your backup plan didn't work out." Someone behind us gasped quietly. Marissa's face went red, then pale. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, another woman walked past us. It was one of Zach's other women, the Seattle girlfriend, who apparently had mutual connections to the wedding party. As she passed Marissa, she paused and said, not loudly but clearly enough for those nearby to hear, "He didn't choose you. He just rotated you." Then she kept walking toward her table like she had just commented on the weather. Marissa made this sound that was half sob, half gasp. She looked around wildly like she was searching for someone to defend her or console her, but her +1 had apparently abandoned ship during the confrontation. The few people watching had these expressions ranging from awkward sympathy to barely concealed satisfaction. Nobody moved to comfort her. She looked back at me one last time, mascara starting to run despite her efforts, and whispered, "I really did love you." I didn't argue with her, just said, "Maybe you did, in the only way you know how, but that is not enough, and it is not my problem anymore." She turned and basically fled the reception. I heard later she left entirely, didn't even wait for her +1 to take her home. Someone said she called a rideshare while crying in the venue's lobby. Lila came back over once Marissa was gone. She didn't ask what happened, just handed me a drink and stood next to me until my hands stopped shaking. We stayed for another hour, danced a little, said goodbye to the couple, and left on good terms with everyone. On the flight back to New York the next morning, Lila asked me if I felt closure now. I thought about it and realized I already had closure before the wedding. Seeing Marissa just confirmed what I had already accepted, that some people only value you when they are losing you, and that is not love. I got promoted last week. Creative director, significant raise. My own team. The campaigns I have been working on are getting industry recognition. I am living in Brooklyn with a view of the skyline. I have friends who actually respect me, and I am dating someone who treats emotional honesty like a basic requirement instead of an inconvenience. Marissa once said I was forgettable. Turns out the only thing forgettable was her version of love. The real thing, the thing I am building now with people who value me, that is what actually lasts.